So, welcome to the Financial Freedom Guy podcast. This is for business owners who are looking to get household income to that generational level. Also, people who want to get their time working to healthy levels, to do what you care about with the people you love. And I have my friend here, Jeff and I, we didn't meet too long ago, but we were introduced by a mutual friend. And Jeff is into one of those worlds that I've heard about, crypto, blockchain. I heard about it, but never took the step. Even though we're years into it, never took the step because it's still so unknown. There's wallets and there's stuff I just don't understand. So Jeff and I, thanks to Jeff, he got me to the point where I did understand. I took the step. So here I am. I want to bring that to you all, in the audience. We'll talk about what and then why it's so important to take this step, given the world that we're already in and the world that we're going into. So Jeff, you know, how, by way of introduction, what would you like to say?
Well, Kirk, I got to say, shout out to you, man, because the first time we met, we resonated because it was clear you were somebody who believed in values like liberty, freedom, privacy. And as we got talking, you could just see the whole Bitcoin exposure, like just kind of wash over you. Like, this is what I need. This is what I've been looking for. And to all the audience that's going to listen to this, thanks for your time. It's the one thing we can't buy more of, although I'll show you how we can time capsule it a little bit later on. But I'm glad that you're watching and happy to talk about this subject. I'm very passionate about the Bitcoin space. And I'll frame it quickly to start that I look at things like Bitcoin's over here, okay? Then there's a big chasm, and then there's cryptocurrency, NFTs, blockchains, all the other stuff's over there. So it's really important for you to understand that as we go through this conversation, that when I refer to Bitcoin, it is its standalone invention and it's over here by itself. So that helps get us started.
Yeah. So how do we think about it? I want to really talk about like where you're at, what you're doing, and then at the back end of this, I want to talk about your journey. How did you get here to connect the dots?
Sure.
So where's a good place to start? Like the audience is business
So
owners. So
Yeah, so let me just take very quickly because you don't know who I am. I'm very much an entrepreneur. I've had experience. I've owned three different businesses. One of them I sold, did quite well. The other one I lost in a divorce, although that business is still very operational. And the third one is one that my wife and I happily own today together. One of the key things that I'm into now is Bitcoin mining. So we actually mine Bitcoin, which means we have computers, whatever computer you're using to watch this, our computers are about, 2,000 times to 3,000 times faster and more powerful than your computer. And those computers are designed to only mine Bitcoin, which means they're going through, let's just call it a math puzzle that then unlocks if you find the answer, it unlocks one Bitcoin, creates another chain on the blockchain, and those start linking together. And data's inscribed, and we could get into what blockchain is, but it's basically a worldwide ledger that everybody has to agree on for it to work together. And then we back that blockchain network with our own values. So we back it by having computers, we back it by having people managing that, we back it by having electricity, and we back it by the politics of it, which is roughly the beginning of this year, about 580 million people around the world are using Bitcoin and blockchain technology, crypto technology. That's expected to go to about 850 to 900 million by the end of the year. So of this
it's a
year. So
massive.
yeah, it's massive, right? And people don't quite understand how big it is. So for us as a business part of it, that's one of the aspects that we do that helps secure the blockchain network. But we also get paid for that and done correctly. Like most businesses, it can be quite profitable. And so with that in mind, I understand more than I'd say the average person who's out there talking about blockchain or crypto or Bitcoin, and it's something I'm very passionate about.
Yeah, I mean, you get the whole operation. I imagine dwarfs back there mining away in the crypto mine, but it's not
It,
quite that. It's the computers. So
it, we
let's
call
talk.
them miners. Yeah,
Yeah. Do you want to start the conversation with how a business owner should think about it in their business, or how an individual should think about it in their life?
yeah. Let's start because these are business owners, right? So all you guys that are listening to this, like shout out to you. because without your businesses out there, like we wouldn't have an economy. And what you're doing very well, and you're out there, and I've been there. I am there, right? So I
Mhm.
understand what it's like to have employees, hire people, run payroll, what it's like to have to put your house on the line. I remember, man, gosh, I remember the first time I had to do that, and what a weird feeling that was to have to sign off and have your house on the line for the company, and then your land, all those factors, right, kick in. So I think if we'd be best to talk about it from a business owner standpoint, and then we can talk personal later on if you want. But one of the easiest ways to understand Bitcoin and blockchain technology is to think of it like a ledger. So in accounting, you have a ledger, but imagine, if you're doing, if say you've got 50 employees, and then you've got, one guy that say he wants to borrow something on the weekend because he's going to borrow a lawnmower to cut the grass, right? Well, you'd say like, you know what, I have this lawnmower, right? And you write it down, he's taking it out, and then another employee wants to, hey, can I borrow a truck from another? And they write it down, and they have that ledger, and they write it down, and now you have the right to go in and tweak that ledger and change that ledger at any time, right? Because you're the boss. But imagine if that ledger was supported by all 50 employees. And in order for anybody to get that ledger changed, you had to round up all your employees, you had to get them all to agree. And not only that, they all had a copy of the ledger. So it suddenly changes everything, right? So Bitcoin is like that ledger with computers around the world, millions of computers, millions of people using Bitcoin. And you have to get everybody to come into agreement with at least 51% agreement in order for the next piece of data, in this case, the idea of writing down to borrow the lawnmower, would get inscribed onto the blockchain. And everyone has to agree. So there's a vested interest for all participants around the world to see that this chain, this blockchain, remains healthy and that it remains robust. And then once something's inscribed on there, you can't go back and change it, right? You'd essentially have to have everybody to agree to it. So, which is virtually impossible now with the size of the network, to have people to come back and agree to go back and change something. And even if they did agree to change it and go back, you'd have to have everybody else agree to follow the change, right? So, um, just to give you an example of how powerful this network is, just rough numbers, if you wanted to control the network for about 6 hours and make changes to the data that's being inscribed on each blockchain as it goes along, you'd need to basically get all the Microsoft cloud computers, all the Amazon cloud computers, all the Apple cloud computers, and the Google cloud computers, and you'd have to have them all together working for about 6 hours and they all that energy and all that time and expense could change the blockchain for a little bit. And then the moment you do that, everybody could decide to not agree with what you tried to take over, which would virtually be impossible to get all the, you'd have to shut down Microsoft, the Amazon, like all that. So it's a very powerful network. And I like to use the analogy of a ledger of how you might use it in business or in a neighborhood to help people understand the consensus that's needed and the immutability of what's put on chain once it's done there. And again, all of that is backed by computers, hardware, right? By electricity, by people, by politics.
Yeah, and that's okay. So business owners, I mean, so you're describing it's a very reliable source of information to transact on and transparency, that kind of thing. Um, Virtually impossible to fake and put in fake transactions and have 51% of the computers
You,
globally
you,
go. I mean,
yeah, you can't fake it. If
yeah,
you did, if you could fake it, the cost to try to do so would be in the billions of dollars, and it would be obsolete in the next 10-minute block because
yeah.
everybody would vote it down. So it's very, very powerful that way.
Okay, so let me tease out some things with you. I think, like from a business owner standpoint, I think there's the question of like, how do I use if I have cryptocurrency, Bitcoin specifically, because there's some
Yeah.
differences with Bitcoin and everything else. Um, at some point, I want to be ready to pay expenses and receive payments using Bitcoin. So there's that part of the equation from a business owner standpoint. Be able to store value, everything else. And then there's the other part about, this ledger you're talking about. Like, just imagine your inventory is on this public ledger that's verified. So that your accounting system is going to have three entries. Now it has two. The third one is going to be to the blockchain, and now it's transparent. So like verifying your inventory, verifying for your numbers for public companies and private companies. If you want a loan from a bank as a private company, they're going to be able to access your blockchain ledger and figure out real quickly what the real deal is and make a lending decision based on that, including private equity firms. I mean, it's the level of
Yep.
transparency is just through the roof for good and bad. A lot of us business owners, let's be real, small business owners, we cut corners sometimes, and we have skeletons in the closets and this kind of stuff. Well,
Right.
in the blockchain world, those methods won't be possible. So those things will be tighter, but there's other opportunity, like that level of transparency to get the type of money you need to get. It's so much easier, less paperwork, that kind of stuff. And a couple other examples. If your company's audited, how many auditors do you need to audit a public verified blockchain? I mean, a lot
Right.
less, right? Maybe there's 10
Yep.
auditors now, or whatever, but the effort will be 10, uh, I don't know the exact percent, but a fraction of what it takes now. So all these things are changing. If you're doing transactions, buying stuff, and you can do things, you can do high trust transactions with people who don't know you. Am I wrong about that?
All of that's right, but we've kind of come across the chasm from Bitcoin over here, and we've come across over to other crypto and blockchain technology, which is also something I'm very much a part of. So you can create like subchains, you can create like open source ledgers essentially that anybody can look at, like what you discussed, that can really benefit your business in many ways, and make your business secure, get into privacy. I was consulting with a doctor here recently. He's an ER doctor, and he's looking to take more of his business basically online. And we went into a whole way to transact. In a course I teach about how to literally do private information that's delivered exclusively to the client, and he doesn't have to worry at all about anybody else having access to that client, because without using blockchain technology and smart contracts, he's able to structure it so only that particular client has access. There's a one of access
Wow.
to that. And Kirk, you're going to see that because that talk I gave on Bitcoin on the weekend for some friends of
Mhm.
ours, I'm actually token gating that whole video. So the only way people can watch the video is using the slang is an NFT, but a non-fungible token. And I'll actually email you a copy of how to do that so you can watch the video, but nobody else. So let's just call it my soup, right? My ingredients of what I've created can't just be sent all over the world for anybody to take advantage of or steal. It keeps my information very much copyrighted and secure on blockchain. So that's just one example. Like, you could have training for your employees. You could have some proprietary information about your business, and all of that again can be locked up on blockchain
That is wild.
using cryptographic technology. And I'm not even talking what's coming in the future. I'm just talking what I've been doing for the last few years. And this is very possible for anybody to use in their business,
That that
including giving customer only access and revoking that if they don't pay their bill.
that is wild. It could be any kind of intellectual property, even movies. It's not like you can lock it down with a blockchain that only the person
You,
who
you
bought
can
it
lock
can use it.
you can lock down movies right now that even if I tried to screen record, you can't see the screen
That's wild.
or get the sound. Yeah,
So it's the
yeah, it's
same. The blockchain technology is behind Bitcoin. We can come back to the Bitcoin thing,
correct.
but it's total revolution. So let's go back to Bitcoin. A
Okay.
business owner, where's if you're leading a business owner like me, who's
Yep.
kind of aware that something's going on, but not
Yeah.
but not like feet are not wet. Where would you guide them? What's the first thing you would talk about?
So one of the first off, I would encourage everybody, like, you're going to hear of Bitcoin as like digital gold or peer-to-peer money, right? Like, I can send Bitcoin at basically the speed of light to somebody anywhere in the world. You're going to hear the idea of digital gold, like it's a store of value like gold, but it's digital and you can move it around and do what you need to. A lot of you business owners that are listening to this probably have a rough idea of what Bitcoin is. So I don't necessarily need to go in and try to, give you an in-depth explanation, although, we could certainly do that if that was necessary. But the best way that I tell everybody is to look at Bitcoin as an invention. Okay? If you start to look at it as an invention, it takes it out of being boxed up as digital gold or peer-to-peer transactions, and look at it as an invention. Because Kirk, once you invent the wheel, okay, you can never uninvent the wheel. The wheel is gonna go, humans are just gonna share it, because like I'm tired of pulling stuff behind me anymore with sticks, right? I don't want two poles behind me trying to carry my goods. I'm gonna use a wheel. Now, at the time the wheel was invented, nobody's thinking about, traveling at 30,000 feet in the air while, watching a movie and flying to your next business meeting, right? Because wheels made that possible. They're just thinking about, I'm just trying to do this, right? And so Bitcoin is very much that invention now that's like a wheel. And what it does really, really well, and this is what I'll talk about for business owners, is it is able to take your real world, let's just say your work. All right. So this is a good exercise. Whatever you make in a month, Kirk, write that number down. All right. So let's just say you're, a business guy, you've got your company, you've got your amount, you're thinking like, I pull a wage out of my company, but you got a good idea. The nut to crack every month is so much. And when the dust settles, I don't know, maybe you're making 40,000, 50,000 a month. Okay. Or you're making 10. It doesn't really matter, but write that number down. Okay. If you can, while you're watching this, because what Bitcoin does is it's able to take that number that you've written down, which represents, your brain power, represents the leverage you're using with people and employees, and your money represents your hard work, like all those phone calls and all that emails and all those meetings you're dealing with, represents all of that, and it puts it into a tangible form that you say, okay, let's just use 40,000. I have $40,000 of value each month. That's what's there. So for the first time in human history, we are now able to take that in real life energy, and we're able to bridge it. And just like right now, those of you that are watching this podcast, or you're doing it digitally, and Kirk and I are having a conversation, you're watching it digitally now and it's recorded, you're able to bridge that hard work and energy digitally onto the Bitcoin blockchain. And it's like a time capsule. You're now able to store it in encrypted energy, and you lock it up. And if all Bitcoin did was keep pace with inflation, and it's crazy right now, like the US government, every 100 days right now, it's $1 trillion getting added to the debt. Canada, since 2008, we've seen a 300% increase in money supply, inflation. It's nuts. But if all Bitcoin did was keep pace with that inflation, so when you needed it, you could unlock your time capsule and it would buy you the same amount of goods and services you need for that month, whatever your number is. We're going to use 40 grand. Let's say 5-10 years from now, it would buy you the same amount of goods and services that $40,000 today will get you. That would be a great job. But it does way more than that. Bitcoin allows me to access it from anywhere in the world. So if I have my 12 words, or I could have it, multi-signature where I have different people involved, I can access my Bitcoin from any place in the world I need to. I can pass it down to my kids. I can pass it down to my great grandkids. And so it's encrypted energy of my hard work and time, but it's digital and it's on blockchain and nobody can screw with it. So it's one of the few things that no government can take from you, no lawsuit can take from you, no person can take from you. It's on a blockchain digitally. So this encrypted energy is there. Now, I've said a lot, and you're probably going like, Jeff, how in the world does this help me in business? Well, let me explain to you, because it doesn't just keep pace with inflation. It actually becomes more and more valuable. So traditionally, the last 10 years, we've seen Bitcoin increase in price by 63% a year. In the last 5 years, we've seen it increase 76%. Now, the problem I've always had in business, anytime I had a business, I was busy, right? So I'm working, I'm going. I don't have time to be sitting here and managing my money and concern. What am I going to do with my extra 40 grand a month or my extra 10 grand a month? Where do I put it? What do I do? And now if I put it into the bank, I'm losing money, right? And now I got to try to find a place to invest it. I want to expand my business because I'm good at that, but then you often run into a ceiling where your marketplace can only take so much of what you're able to do. But I want to do something with my wealth that protects it from inflation, that protects it from creditors, but also that'll make me money. And so the big thing, and if you don't get anything else of what I say today, I would just say this: start putting Bitcoin on your balance sheet. So if you just start putting Bitcoin on your balance sheet with the intention to hold it long term, and I'm talking 5, 10, 20 years, it eliminates a lot of the issues you're running into. What do I do with my hard work, energy, and time, that the money that it's created? How do I protect that in the future? Well, by putting some Bitcoin on your balance sheet, you'll see it start to grow. And then the recent laws in the U.S. have just changed where you can actually market to market. So now I go to my accountant now, and actually they look at our balance sheet and the crypto that's on there. They're able to look at that and actually say, okay, it's worth X amount of dollars. So if you bought Bitcoin last year, would have got you at 30,000 you know dollar Bitcoin. Your 40,000 would have got you 1.33 Bitcoin per month. Well, now Bitcoin's $68,000 today as we do this interview. So you would have seen your Bitcoin value increase, and you're not having to worry about anything. You're just doing your business, right? So you're able to store that value. So if you started taking, putting Bitcoin on your balance sheet, that's awesome, because that solves a lot of issues, unless you just start focusing on your business. And then the second thing you could do, you could actually start taking Bitcoin from clients. And maybe I'll stop there because we might want to hit me with a few questions on this whole balance sheet thing.
Let's kind of drill down a bit. Okay, so the business owner takes a step, they purchase their first Bitcoin, they figure it out, they understand the wallets and how to make sure it's safe and all that. Start building out some amount on their balance sheet, and it's marked to market. I think it's worth talking about a bit. I believe it's fair to say one of my degrees, master's degrees, is economics. So I spent too much time looking at that kind of stuff. I think it's fair to say that globally, a lot of people, for good reason, don't have confidence in the central bank that's controlled by their government. Even though there's some independence, there's lots of good political control and influence. And
Yes.
it's the U.S. dollar with Brent after World War II, Brentwood, the U.S. dollar was the standard. It had gold backed, and with Nixon, we stopped doing the gold back. The dollar has no place to go, right? We've been borrowing, this $1 trillion every 100 days, which is beyond we're not earning that. We're borrowing that based on the faith people have and want to hold our dollar. It's not based on our earnings. It's not based on our our strength. So we're taking all these loans out based on the credibility. So the dollar has no place to go. It's not gold backed anymore. It hasn't been since the
Can't.
1970s. There's other currencies in the world. Then there's BRICS, which is like Russia, India, China, and other people created a block of currency. Any smart person that's sophisticated, if you're running a company with certain things going on, if you have personal investments, you're going to start to put some of your money in those other alternatives like BRICS, because the central bank is printing money and leveraging itself beyond. It's already beyond any kind of reasonable, um, justification for the debt we have in the USA. Um, it seems like Bitcoin is outside of all that, right? It's outside of the central
Correct.
bank, no matter what
Because all the
country you're
banks are
in.
doing it. It's not just the U.S. All the banks are doing it, right? So China's similar situation. They're all printing money and trying to use it. So what happens with inflation? All right, inflation is government policy. And people say, well, 2%, is not that much, right? It's just 2% a year is what we're trying to run inflation at. But you know what? 2% a year over a generation is very costly, because you're running at, let's say, 50 years. Well, there goes 100%, right? So the problem with where we've gotten to is we're borrowing from the future. And we're not just borrowing a little bit. And it'd be different if we could keep the economy up, and keep it going, and we're boring, we're down here. It's just like you and your business, right? But you've over leveraged your business massively, and now you're borrowing for the next century, right? Well, somewhere there's going to be a point of reckoning that comes back, right? So if you're borrowing your next 30 years of earnings, you know, today to spend, you're going to have a reckoning sooner or later. However, what the governments are able to do, because they control their currencies, and in particular, US dollar as a reserve currency of the world, has a unique edge to be able to do this. You can print more money, right? So you brought in the money supply, you can print more money, and that is essentially a tax, a hidden tax that hits all people around the world, including your own citizens that use US dollars. So one of the problems then as a business owner is you're keeping money for keeping your business afloat, right? And you're trying to save that money, right? Save those costs. You want to keep more money in your bank account. You want to make more than you spend. All that basic business stuff, right? But there's a constant war against you that's diluting your money. And when I say war, I'm talking war. Like they're aggressively diluting the cash that you have on your balance sheet.
Yeah.
So it really came home to me in the last 4 years. So from 2020 to about the end of 2023, we saw inflation in the United States, Europe, Canada increase about 23%. And that's what they're reporting. That's government reporting, okay? Not that what I call true inflation, which I think is much higher because they manipulate the numbers to try to not have, civil unrest. That means that if you had $100,000 in your bank, you now need $123,000 to buy the same amount of goods and services, which means your time and energy that I talked about, right? Your 40K a month, guys, that just got significantly taxed. So that's why I'm saying there's a constant war against you. So Bitcoin, because there's a finite supply of Bitcoin, there's only 21 million Bitcoin that'll ever be produced, and it gets harder and harder to produce it, right? There's more cost to produce it. It's like a hard money. Like imagine mining gold. It's the same idea. So by being able to get some Bitcoin, that's like your exit ramp. That's like your life raft. That's your way of opting out of the system and saying, yes, I still need to be in and participate, but I'll opt out of it for some of this. I don't want to be involved in the central bank craziness. Like guys, I'm
Yeah.
so tired of supporting wars and killing people that I have no issue with in countries I don't have a problem with, all because some government can print way more money and just send it overseas to whoever is kind of paying them off to do it. And Bitcoin takes me out of that craziness. It allows me an opportunity. And we've never seen this in the history of the world that we've been able to do this and do it so securely and so transparently. It's essentially a peaceful revolution.
Yeah, it's pretty phenomenal. I mean, there's 5 technologies like this: Bitcoin, blockchain, cryptocurrencies. Definitely one of the bundles. Hey, I just want to say something about this. Like the wars that were supported. I'm former Army. You know, I didn't do anything heroic. I was a behavioral scientist, but I left school and joined during the first Gulf War because I care. I care about us. And I got 2 sons who are both Army officers, and they've been in harm's way, in Syria and that kind of stuff. And then the amount of money, like 20 years and pouring in like $6 to $8 trillion into Afghanistan, for what, right? We didn't
Right.
even have the money. We borrowed it. And the government benefits when inflation is the higher the inflation is, it reduces their debt
The
payment
debt.
because right. So they benefit by
Yep.
playing this inflation game because it makes their ability to keep stretching the debt game, the
Yep.
excess even more to play kings and queens around the world, while the middle class, man, wow,
It's brutal.
woo, right? You got young people coming out of school, people who care, who don't see themselves ever owning a house, and
Yeah.
don't see themselves getting married and having kids because it's just too much weight to carry. I mean, you gotta be kidding me,
It's
right?
crazy. Crazy. Like
Yeah,
like Kirk, that's the American dream, right?
yeah,
And you can't do that because the money has been inflated and printed so much that any hard asset goes up along with it, right? That's why we see our houses go up in price so much and our hard asset value, right? But it creates also a major issue for business owners because now you have to inspire people. You got to help them, right? You're not just working with people trying to pay them a fair wage. You've got to try to motivate them to help find them a house so they'll stick around, or they're going to leave and go somewhere else where houses are cheaper, right? That's a
Yeah,
major issue on where we live on this island, right? And so yes,
major.
there's massive issues that start coming up that are the direct result of all this money printing.
Yeah. And that's something. I mean, imagine living your life, you or I. I mean, I love my family. I love my work. I can't believe I get to do this in life. I love my family. It gives me purpose. Even the first mountain was a grind, right? I was
Yep.
working way too hard, and I wasn't smart enough to know how to get hours down, kind of stuff. So I was hitting it. But I did it because I care about my two sons so much and my wife, and that, to go through all the stuff we go through as a couple. I just can't imagine being, whatever, 26 and thinking I will never have that. I mean, what does that do to individual? I mean, in a society, it's not consistent with human thriving. And I actually think
Right.
we're going into a period where the human thriving will never. The baby boomers brought 2 billion people out of poverty, which is really something from a material
Yep.
standpoint. But but COVID caused us to think about what else, what matters in life, more from a spiritual purpose standpoint. And so I think all that combined with the technologies you're talking about, we're going into a period of human thriving like we have never seen before. The opportunity, people are saying there's no opportunity. Are you kidding me? There's,
You're,
you and I were talking before, and you said it. I'm going to say it. I'm going to say what you said. You said you have never seen more opportunity in life, and I'm there with you. It's a
yeah.
little, there's some uncertainty. Can't quite see around the corner. But if we're in the game as business owners and as people, we're bringing our families along, then there's something here.
There's massive opportunity right now. But there's Bitcoin, then there's the cryptocurrency space, right? And all those young people that you're talking about, you know, they're out there, they're starting to hustle, they're starting to use this, they're starting to figure it out. For them, this is just normal. Like the guy I talked to yesterday, 19 years old, Bitcoin's been around for as long as he can remember. He doesn't know any different, right? The idea going forward, when my daughter has kids, those kids are going to grow up. The idea of a bank is going to be foreign to them, right? Because they're just going to be doing it all on their phone,
Yeah.
and and all of this and transferring funds and money. So it's an amazing time to be alive. And I thank God for Bitcoin because it gives me an ability to opt out a portion of my wealth and hard work and my in real life energy to opt it out and protect it against all this government craziness and the central bank printing. And as I help people, and I just love helping people, the more I'm able to explain to them and help them, you can see the light bulb go on in their head, right? And be like, if I start doing this, okay. You mean, and I've had people like on the business side, they're like, I can have all that for free. And I'm like, yeah, it doesn't that all that's available free doesn't even cost you anything. You can put Bitcoin on chain. It doesn't cost you anything to store. You're not paying a financial advisor. You're not paying like a storage fee like you would for gold. You're not having to worry about like a house that you're renting out and the maintenance and all of that things. Like you can just put it on chain and leave it. I gave away some Bitcoin the other day as part of my talk. It cost me $2
Yeah.
to send $33 worth of Bitcoin to somebody, which is expensive, but I could have sent $1 billion for $2
Yeah.
also,
You
right?
showed me that on a previous
Yeah,
screenshot where some enormous amount of money was spent. And I think it was what, like $17 or something. It was some
yeah,
ridiculously small amount, and
ridiculously at that time.
ridiculous. And then
Yeah.
you also showed me that didn't was it Wells Fargo Bank starting to hold Bitcoin? Was that there was something?
There's a lot like I know there's lots that are starting to do it with the use of ETFs. Fidelity, everybody listening probably knows Fidelity. They've been mining Bitcoin for, boy, I think it's 10 years now. And have a whole exposure to Bitcoin. They just, they're one of the largest wealth managers in the world. They just keep their mouth shut about it.
Yeah.
Um, but back to the business owners, all of this might sound like kind of weird and foreign, but when you start to understand the constant devaluation of your hard work and energy represented by holding in, US dollars, Canadian dollars, euros, whatever, when you understand that that's constantly being diluted, and then this gives you the ability to opt out a portion of it. And the beauty is you don't have to do a lot. Like you could just do like, 3%, right? You could do 5%. But what happens is as you start to store it, you see it as such a better store of value. I'm coming back to my wheel example. You're like, man, Jeff, I've been dragging. No wonder things are so hard. I've been dragging these sticks behind me and I've been trying to get my business going. I've been trying to keep my balance sheet strong. But the whole time I'm dragging sticks, now you show me a wheel, right? You fast forward 2, 3 years from now, you have this wheel and you're like, wow, is it ever so much easier to deal with a lot of things that I've been having to deal with as a business owner, because now I can just focus on my core business and then I put a little bit on the Bitcoin balance sheet and it starts to grow. And if you'd started this 5 years ago and say you'd put 5% onto the balance sheet, well, Bitcoin's grown over 15% in the last 5 years. So think about your 5% now jumping up to 45%, and you're just still doing it nothing. You're just keep working, let alone, as if you decide to keep adding. So it's a very powerful tool to protect your hard work, your brain smarts, your actual work that you're doing, your blood, sweat, and tears, right? Showing up every day at the office. Again, you can come across that bridge, time capsule it, protect it with encrypted energy, and then access it whenever you want. And people are always saying to me, well, Jeff, what if I need the Bitcoin? I got to do something. Well, no, yeah, no problem. There's banks that'll buy it from you. There's brokers that'll buy it from you. There's most likely a Bitcoin ATM somewhere near you that you can just go and take it out and cash if you need cash. I can access my Bitcoin from anywhere in the world if I need to, right? Where I can't access my rental property from anywhere in the world. I can't go
It's
sell a little chunk. I can't sell that bathroom or that shed on the property and take the money right away if I need to and then put it right back, you know.
yeah,
There's many, many great ways.
it's liquid, right? It's
It's
liquid, and
super
just
liquid.
remind people with the 2008 housing crash. I mean, our current system of banking, it wasn't liquid. Like those auction rate
Right.
securities, all that kind of that, they stopped selling, and then so but Bitcoin all the way through that was liquid, right?
And
You can
well, it actually happened after the 2008. It was invented out of that. The founder was very upset with what happened. He wrote about it. It actually didn't start till 2009. But look at there's many different like the recent banking collapse that happened in what was it, a year and a half or 2 years ago with Signature Bank and those other ones, right?
yeah.
It is liquid. One thing though, there is risk with anything, and I do want to talk about the number one risk, which is volatility. It's a volatile asset right now because it's a brand new asset class. So we haven't seen an asset class invented for probably about 150 years when banks started accepting gold as collateral, right? So this is the first time we've seen something like this in well over a century. And so anytime you have a brand new asset class, as it's new, there's going to be volatility as the market's trying to figure out what the value of this is, right? So just like we saw with Amazon and with Apple and these new technologies that came out, people are trying to figure out what's the value of those companies, right? So back in 99, back in 2010 and 2020, people are still trying to figure out the value. They still do it today, but now it's a massively big market and you can figure out the value. So 2024 January was the first time we've seen Wall Street now have access to Bitcoin through an ETF as simple as clicking a button and buying it like a stock. So there's now a massive amount of institutional capital that's going to pour into this Bitcoin space, and we're seeing that happen now. Um, so I believe that will start to get even more of a fair value of Bitcoin. I personally feel, and I could prove it, that Bitcoin's very undervalued right now. But I believe as that capital comes in, we'll start to see, the volatility start to smooth out. And certainly if you're comfortable holding Bitcoin for many years, then that volatility smooths out, really, really well in your favor.
Hold it. So let's talk about, so there's risk volatility. I mean, the markets are emotional, and it's still
Yeah.
figuring itself out. That's new things are that way. What about? I mean, I've certainly heard about scams and other things going on in this space. Can you talk us through some of that, like things to have you watch out for?
Yeah. So Kirk, when I do I actually have a course I do and I really dive into that. I call it, one of the chapters is about how to avoid the wolf. And in this day and age, with all the AI that's out and all the scams and the links and things like that, there's a lot of scams. And again, just like when the internet came out in 98, 99, there was a lot of scams back then, a lot of, fake things being done. And, there's, bad reputations and whatnot. The biggest thing really to watch for is somebody who would try to say, take your code words. So there's typically 12 or 24 words that unlock a wallet. The wallet has the key to move the Bitcoin. So they're constantly trying to get access to that. So I see people make very basic mistakes. They'll save their words on a computer. Well, now AI is so sophisticated, if they get a chance to, you click the wrong link, it'll scan your computer looking for those words, right? Um, so I see, people that, they just make dumb things because, they're either careless, like they're clicking on links that aren't, they shouldn't be, or, I talked to somebody the other day who, had all his words saved in the cloud, right? And I'm like, dude, like, literally, it's not passwords. This is like, there's nobody to call. There's no CEO. There's no board of directors. Like, if you lose access to your Bitcoin, I can't help you, right? So that's probably the biggest risk, is not being careful. And there's many ways to mitigate that risk to, basically zero. You can get into multi-signature custodial wallets. You can get into wallets that are like, for instance, Kirk, you could have yourself, your two sons, and any two of you could open up a wallet, right? But it wouldn't rely just on you if you screwed something up, right? So that's one of the probably the biggest things is, or people will write down one copy, and that's all they have is one copy of their words. And I'm like, what happens if you lose that copy? Well, they're gone forever, right? So um, there's a lot I could talk about on that, but the biggest thing is to explain that scams and corruption that you hear about in the cryptocurrency space is human behavior. And most of the time, I'm going to say 9 times out of 10, has nothing to do with the technology. The technology is actually doing what it's supposed to do. It's usually about humans, doing stupid things, or like the FTX collapse that happened with Sam Bankman-Fried, intentionally trying to defraud people. Now, for most people, if they'd been in Bitcoin instead of Sam Bankman-Fried's shitcoin called, the FTX one they created, if people had been in Bitcoin, they wouldn't have been able to get away with that, because people would have seen on chain that, billions of dollars move into different wallets, and they would have went, whoa, what's going on, right? But when you do a ledger that you have control over and it's kind of moving around, there's a lot of woo magic, you don't know, what's exactly happening, right? Or you can't get away with that with Bitcoin. So I would go ahead.
I'll go. I was going to ask you, but let me finish your thoughts. I'll come back and ask a question.
So I would say that if you're old enough to remember when the internet came out and all the stuff that was happening there, and Kirk and I are, there was lots of scams. There still is today, with people trying to send you emails, click on a link. You're always going to see that. Technology will be used. Drug dealers will use cell phones to do drug deals, right? Doesn't make the cell phone that I'm holding here bad. Matter of fact, it makes everybody's life better to have cell phones, right? Crypto technology is the same idea. So don't allow bad news reporting that's trying to get you click to read it to influence you too much.
Yeah, right. With everything, there's the pros and the cons.
Electricity,
Is
when it came out, people were when electricity was getting used, people were freaked out, like, electricity, oh my gosh, what's it going to do? It's going to ruin everything, right? Vehicles
yeah,
was a similar way, right?
yeah,
We're just in that same space, but it's going to change. It's changing the world.
yeah. There's memes. I saw one that you put out. I've seen other ones where electricity's a demon and all this kind
Yeah,
of horrible stuff.
yeah.
But people naturally fear new stuff. That's why they stayed safe for all these years. If you go to the jungle, new stuff, dangerous. So just stay status quo. Nevertheless, the technologies do advance, and people can choose to miss the boat or really benefit from the ride. The
It's this
it,
meme right
it,
here. It's called an unrestrained demon. So those
you
that are
see,
watching the video can pause. It's an
but
unrestrained demon. That was a cartoon that came out around the turn of the century, as they were making, basically so scared about electricity, right?
Yeah.
Now we're just talking
Terrifying.
encrypted electricity.
Yeah. It, Jeff, is it correct that Bitcoin is the only coin that's outside of anybody's control?
In my opinion, yes. I mean, the only one that matters. So there's the beauty of Bitcoin is one of the most powerful aspects is the decentralization of Bitcoin. So there is no CEO, there's no board of directors. Satoshi Nakamoto, that's a pseudonym, was the founder, and then he basically gave it away for free and let people do what they wanted to do with it. And now it's grown and become this, amazing ledger, this amazing network of
Yeah.
computers around the world. So it's truly decentralized. There's Ethereum is the next one that you'll probably hear about. It's the number 2 in market capitalization today. I think Bitcoin's around 1.3 or so trillion dollars. Ethereum's quite a bit lower than that. But even Ethereum, although it's being called decentralized, if you arrested one of the co-founders, Vitalik, or if you stormed the Ethereum Foundation with your men with guns and tried to take over, you'd see Ethereum get absolutely smashed and hammered. Even though people say it's decentralized, there's big names and people associated with that. So that's one, and there's other ones that are decentralized, but they're much much smaller. So Bitcoin has several things working for it. It has first mover advantage. Um, it has the fact that it's just gotten so big, and it now has the backing of Wall Street with Larry Fink, the CEO of BlackRock, endorsing it, giving it his magic wand, and saying people need to buy Bitcoin.
Yeah. So let's kind of bring this in for a landing. I want a couple things. I mean, if nothing else, realize that this is a place that we need to get our feet wet as business owners, right? Both on the business side, the personal
Not
side.
not need you have to. Like
Yeah.
if you don't start adopting this technology, you're going to get left in the dust because the difference is imagine whatever business you're in and I'm your competitor and I'm adding 5% of Bitcoin to my balance sheet. Now, if we did this 5 years ago, my balance sheet, the 5% has increased over 1500%. So my hard work in real life energy that I gave you, $40,000 a month example, has more than 5x'd, gone up over
Yeah.
1500%. So now what competitive advantage do you have with me now? So you
Yeah.
have to do this if you want to. In my opinion, you're crazy not to explore it at a bare minimum. That if you're not doing it, you're going to get left in the dust. Let alone the
Yeah.
crypto technology and all that stuff that's happening.
Yeah, there's 5 technologies that are moving, right? And this is one of them. Each one of them individually is fully disruptive, like fully.
Yes.
And so there's 5 at the same time, and then behind that is the crypto computing, which is
Yeah.
in and of itself that's number 6, fully disruptive, right? And
Yeah.
it's again for those who take crawl, walk, run, take this step, there's going to be more human thriving than we've ever seen before. But
Absolutely.
we got to be in the game, take the step, from the bench to the sideline, whatever. And so I want to highlight what you're painting a picture of. You're painting a picture of gaining a skill, learning about something new. The same way as the internet, the first time, first browser, click here, click there, didn't make sense. Terminology was different, right? All this kind of stuff. So I really want to encourage the business owner, as I have recently taken that first step because of really collaborating with Jeff and people that he knows, that kind of thing. And so I want to encourage people to take the first step, get your feet wet. And Jeff, would you tell us, you have a crypto empowerment course? Would you tell us about that?
Sure. Yeah. Thanks for giving me that opportunity, Kirk. So I have a crypto empowerment course with the idea of taking people who know very little or nothing, and in 8 modules, I get them up to speed really quickly. And that typically each module is about 90 minutes. I teach it live right now, although I will go to recorded version. But guys, I really enjoy the live teaching. I love talking with people. I tend to keep it at, a smaller group of people. So there's no more than 40 in a class session, and it allows it to go together really well. So I hit things like setting up your wallet so it's secure. We start with that because again, you can do all this hard work, but if you don't secure it and fast forward in the future and you have hundreds of thousands or millions of dollars sitting there and you haven't secured it correctly at the beginning, you have all that at risk, right? You don't want to, you definitely don't want to do that. I get into blockchains, different blockchains, how to use them. So people understand, like, just like, you use a chainsaw for something very specific. You don't want to use a chainsaw for a hammer, right? So help people figure that out. And again, a lot of that technology doesn't cost you anything to incorporate, but it's very important. I get into NFTs, smart contracts. I do a whole class on purchasing crypto, on buying different portions of crypto. I get into talking about NFTs, how to use them in your business. I do a whole section on business only about disruptive technologies I see right now in the crypto space that some people might want to do, like the doctor friend of mine. I said that's in an ER. He's become a friend now. That's ER doctor, and how he could use that. I mean, he was blown away. And all of that focuses around being a sovereign individual. And then I get into an investing portion of it, so you can actually make some better, high quality decisions based on investing long term. And I break down a very easy strategy to understand that's robust and proven over time. And then I wrap it all up with operating as a sovereign individual, which means that you love freedom, you love liberty, you love privacy, and you want to have your digital energy stored that way securely for the rest of your life, so that you can operate in this digital space while being protected in real life. And
Yeah.
yeah, so when we're done that, I tell everybody, you know what, if you're not happy while you're doing the course, shoot me an email. I'll refund you 100%, and you can keep the course. I'm that confident about it, Kirk.
Yeah. And so, roughly, how long did it take you to learn this level of expertise?
Well, I first looked at buying Bitcoin when it was $5. I passed at $25 because it was too expensive. A buddy of mine, we're going to buy $1,000 worth of Bitcoin. So, and then at $200, it came down to $100. And again, I missed out and never did. So I didn't really buy Bitcoin till about 2015. And then that was after a divorce. And then I really got into it, later. I was kind of watching it, not that serious. It wasn't until, like, 2019, 2020 that I got started to get way more serious about it. And then, switching into the business that I used to be in, which was in the housing business, land development, things like that. I found a better property to be involved in, a pristine collateral, essentially been able to develop waterfront property around the world that everybody would want to own. And the more I got into Bitcoin and understanding it, got into Bitcoin mining, the more I wanted to be part of that space. So I would say, you package all of that up and then say there's 4 or 5 years of very intense hard work. And then I try to, give you a good chunk of that in 8 modules.
Yeah. So there's we talk about, like, business owners like us. Our time, my time, is more valuable than my money. And if I commit to something that requires time, I got to be really confident something's going to come out of it. So the course is approximately $1,500 US dollars.
Yeah, we were
And
gonna.
it
Normally it's 25. Normally it'd be like $2,600, and I'm willing to offer it to your group for $1,600.
1600, great.
Yeah.
And you talk about compressed time. You have roughly 9 years at various levels of intensity. I mean, so for someone like me coming into it, I can compress my time in 8 sessions, hour and a half each. Then, whatever, $1,600. Then I'm going to get to some level of Jeff's knowledge, expertise to be able to take that first step if I haven't already done that, or take the next step if I'm already there, in a way where I feel it's positive and I feel it's safe, because all
Correct.
unknown things don't feel safe, but this gets me where it's safe. Jeff, I want to be in your course, okay? So I'll sign up. So you got me, and I'm gonna invite
Cool.
everybody across my community to come do it, because this is one
Well,
of the 5 technologies. If
Kirk,
man,
what would
if
be great would be this, and I'd be willing to commit. We could do one that would be exclusive for your group of people. And I will tell you guys this: whatever your time value is per hour, like I personally value my time at just a little over 1,000 an hour. So if I'm doing any kind of business stuff for me, if it's not at least 1,000 an hour, I tend to pass on it, because I just look at it. Now I hate even comparing my time to money, but I have to put something in there to keep the standard, right? Just
yep,
like investing, I look at Bitcoin, I'm getting 63% on average per year. My investments have to significantly beat that, or I'll just buy more Bitcoin. Okay. I have to do something for my time. So I will tell you, I'll guarantee everybody, whatever your value is, whatever that time is you put on, I'm going to 10x that for you. And the
Yeah.
reason I can be so confident that I can 10x it for you is because of the technology, and I know what it will do for you if you put practical application in to your life. So I'll 10x it for you. And then Kirk, I mean, we weren't pre-planning a small group or whatever, but if there's a group of your listeners, and then we could put them in, our own little pool, so to speak, then what happens is you'd also be rubbing shoulders with fellow business people live in the course, and a lot of you will ask questions that a light bulb will go off in somebody else's brain, like, oh wow, I never even thought of that. I could apply that to my business, right? So there becomes a
Yeah.
bit of a mastermind approach also when we do those live group classes.
Yeah, that's brilliant, and you do go into this sense of curiosity, calm, have fun, and this is how we get people to prosperity, right? Where household income's
Right.
really good, you got the value that you worked for is safe. So, Jeff, what is the best way for people to contact you about the course or anything else that might be going on?
You know, Kirk, we could put something together really easy that would be in the links of however you share this, but I will say the easiest would be to just email me. It's starbuildersconsulting@gmail.com.
Yeah.
And that would be the easiest to contact me. Again, maybe we can put something in your show notes. But even if you don't do the course, and of course, I'd love for you to be part of that, just buy a little Bitcoin. And this is why I'm in this space. If I can just simply get people to start buying a little Bitcoin, I can make a massive positive difference in the world. Because what happens is they start seeing that Bitcoin going up in value while their dollars are dropping in value. Now that middle class person or that poor person is starting to realize there's hope. I can actually put my time and energy, hard work into something that will actually start to grow in value and protect me from the theft of inflation and the theft of central banks printing money and stealing my hard work and energy. Now there's a life raft. So if I can just get that done and I can just help people to do that, that's what really drives me to do this. And the course is part of that's an acceleration, right? The course is like boom, really gets people into that, and it just spreads even further, right? It's like throwing gasoline on a little fire, right? So that's where I'm passionate about the course. But if nothing else, guys, if you can just buy a little Bitcoin,
Yeah, so that's the minimal. You buy $100 worth of Bitcoin, do
yeah,
that,
just start.
right? Most of us you can drop $100 at lunch or dinner
I, I
in a
gave away
minute.
$100 at the talk I did on the weekend. I gave away a surprise $100 to people that showed up and had their video on, because I was just
Yeah,
like, you know what? I just so passionate about it because it literally it's like a virus, right? But a good one, not a bad one. Like I give that
yeah,
to you, it makes you healthy, it makes you financially healthy, right? It's like Kirk, I can't explain how passionate I am about it because it's a game changer in this world right now. It's the first time we've been able to use technology like this in the history of humans. So it's really big. So yes, back to the course. Yeah, I think we should cap it, keep it a small amount, maybe 30 people max, something like that. We can talk those details offline. But anybody who's interested, I understand it's not the dollar amount, although it's a write-off for you and your business. What's important is your time. And I guarantee you I will 10x your time. And not only that, I might drop you an idea that could 100x your business.
yeah. There's definitely some new thinking here. So I'm going to be there. I encourage everybody else to jump in. And again, it's guaranteed, right? Where if you don't like it, drop out, get your money back.
Yeah.
Um, Okay, so for the audience, thank you for your time and attention. This is the frontier. Go into it with foresight, right? Eyes open, go into it confidently because the ones who do are going to have an advantage. The ones who don't are going to have a disadvantage. And that's how you get to prosperity and take care of the people you love, your team members, everything, okay? So, Jeff, I could not be more happy that when we came up, you're like, huh, maybe, good idea. I can't be more happy that you jumped in to bring this option to my community. So thank you so much.
Yeah, Kirk, you're welcome. And I appreciate everybody who's watched this, listened to this. I touched on a lot for many of you, right? You're using dial-up modems, and I'm up in the plane using,
Yeah,
watching movies and everything else, right? And saying, hey, look what we're able to do now. But when you start, it's not that difficult to start getting into, right? And once you start, slowly easing into it, it's a game changer. So thanks again for listening.
yeah. Thank you for your time and attention. See you soon.